Hi, I'm a possum and I find garbage, but I'm not a possum today because the moon spirit turns me into a dog. Ain't that something? And by sheer coincidence, today's garbage is 100% Wolf, an Australian computer animated film from 2020 about a kid from a family of werewolves who turns into a dog. Me deciding to review this movie has nothing to do with the fact that it has a sequel coming out later this year. That's also a coincidence. Like when that whistleblower at Boeing was found dead. Now, I found this movie at Dollar Tree and I never heard of it before then. I found out from TV tropes that's based on a book, and substantial changes were made for the movie adaptation, and I can't find any information about how much it cost to make, but it only grossed a little over $8 million at the global box office. Still, that was somehow enough to warrant a spin-off series called 100% Wolf Legend of the Moonstone, which I guess only ever aired on Australian television, as well as a sequel. I guess you gotta launder the money from your illegal kangaroo trafficking operations somehow. By the way, since no one cares about this movie, I'm just gonna sprinkle in references to random entertainment products and see if that has any effect on how this movie does in YouTube's mysterious recommendation algorithm. Blow me. The movie starts with the opening credits over a spooky cartoon forest, and we see a bunch of wolves jumping from rooftop to rooftop while stalking this kid with a magic ring. Except they're not stalking him, it's just edited that way to fake out the audience. See, these are actually werewolves, and they're good werewolves who go around rescuing people, like Paw Patrol but gayer. I got rescued by a werewolf once, or maybe it was a Persian guy. I don't know, I was overdosing on desomorphine at the time. They spot a woman screaming from the window of a burning building, and the leader tells this red guy to keep lookout, which he seems to resent.
Yeah, I'll just wait here in the shadows. I mean, your shadow.
The kid watches from behind a plastic plant that the animators want us to believe is a real plant, and the leader werewolf guy jumps from the window and into the title. He hears another person screaming and runs back into the building, and then the kid puts on a wolf mask and runs in after him, but then promptly runs back out with his hair on fire. Speaking of fire, have any of you guys considered purchasing an Amazon Fire TV stick? It's a stick that turns your TV into a smart TV. Oh wow, as if you don't already own one, right? You can also stick it in your ass or your urethra, whichever's funnier. Fire stick, don't be a by a fire stick. Wolf guy comes out and it turns out he's this kid's dad. The kid's name is Freddy, and he wants to be like his dad, Flashheart. Not Flash Heart, but Flashheart, with one H. He's voiced by Jai Courtney for some reason.
It's not safe for you out here, Freddy. You're not a wolf yet.
Yeah, the boomerang guy from Suicide Squad. If only his career would return to him. Freddy apparently comes from a family of werewolves, but he hasn't gotten his wolf form yet because he's not old enough. See, in this universe, you need to get hair on your balls before you can get hair anywhere else. He drops the magic ring, and Red Guy yells at him because something bad would happen to him if it fell into the wrong hands. But then they hear more people screaming, so we get a montage of Freddy being obnoxious while the werewolves go around rescuing people. By the way, the werewolves had never seen rescuing people again for the rest of the movie after this. Freddy causes Red Guy to fall off a roof where he gets garbage stuck to his face by dogs. It turns out dogs are the mortal enemy of werewolves in this universe for reasons that are never explained. The werewolves scare the dogs away, the Red Guy yells at Freddy, and the werewolves all f*** off. Freddy rides Flashheart around for a while, but then he falls off and nearly gets run over by an ice cream truck that's just driving around in the middle of the night for some reason. But Flashheart saves him. The neurotic driver thinks he just saw a kid get abducted by a wolf, so he gets out to look for him with no plan for what he would do if he actually encountered a 200-pound wolf. I know what I would do. According to DeviantArt and Tumblr, wolves really like diapers, so you can use one as a distraction. As Freddy and Flashheart run away, Flashheart explains that they have to hide from humans because humans kill anything they don't understand. I mean, maybe humans would understand werewolves if the werewolves didn't hide from them. And if they didn't want humans to know about them, then maybe they shouldn't be going around the city doing the fire department's job. But there's no time to ponder that because Flashheart has to exposit to Freddy that the moon spirit decides what kind of werewolf a werewolf kid will grow up into. So it's like communism, you don't get to pick.
Now the best wolves don't have the sharpest claws or the pointiest teeth. They have the biggest
Freddy randomly mentions that his mom is dead just totally unprompted, because of course the protagonist of a kid's movie has a dead parent. That's never been done before. And then the ice cream man arrives. He sees Flashheart and tries to intimidate him by doing kung fu shit.
My monkey is a black belt!
Something you might notice about the animation in this movie is that it has no style. There are times, like in this scene, where it seems like it's trying to be like Hotel Transylvania, which had this really punchy animation where characters would make sudden sharp movements. But that movie also incorporated smear frames because they're trying to emulate the feel of old Tex Avery cartoons. Most of the time, 100% Wolf feels like an Illumination movie, and not one of the better ones like Super Mario Bros., but one of the shitty ones like Sing, where the animation is technically competent, but there's just nothing unique or appealing about it. Anyway, the ice cream man falls off a cliff and Flashheart tries to save him, but he won't stop thrashing around and causes Flashheart to fall. Red Guy drags Freddy away, the ice cream man finds the ring, and then we cut to Flashheart's funeral. What the f*** is this music? Sounds like Miss Piggy trying to sing Bjork. So Flashheart's dead, but because Freddy isn't old enough to take his place, Red Guy becomes the new leader. Freddy runs away crying and hides under his bed, and then we time-lapse to 6 years later, when we see Freddy as a teenager, which is really unrealistic because everyone knows time runs backwards in Australia, and people there age in reverse. Freddy prepares for his wolfing. Some rock band shows up, then Freddy starts dancing in the mirror until his housekeeper comes in. Freddy complains that Red Guy still thinks he isn't ready to lead the pack and become a high howler.
I may not be a werewolf.
Oh, so the housekeeper lady isn't a werewolf. She's just a normal human, working for a family of werewolves that tried to hide from humans. Okay? Anyway, we cut to Red Guy scheming to keep his position as the leader.
I've led this pack faithfully for 6 years. My Lost Dogs home removes more filthy strays from our streets.
So Red Guy runs the local dog pound and has made it his business to remove all the stray dogs from the streets. The two characters he's talking to point out he still hasn't gotten the magic ring back from the ice cream man, who's now running a werewolf museum no one wants to go to. Speaking of things no one wants to see, have you guys seen Rebel Moon Part 2, The Scavenger, now streaming exclusively on Netflix? What's Netflix, you ask? Well, it's a streaming service where you can watch hundreds of terrible movies and TV shows, all for a constantly increasing monthly subscription. Enjoy watching movies in lower than DVD quality, and since practically every media conglomerate has their own streaming service now, Netflix's content consists almost entirely of original shows, which get canceled after one season when they don't immediately do Stranger Things numbers. So pull out your credit card and get invested in something that'll come to an abrupt end just as you're starting to get into it, you stupid asshole. Netflix, suck our we're at Netflix. Anyway, the magic ring warns Ice Cream Guy whenever werewolves are nearby, so when they try to get the ring from him, he throws silver dust at them, which knocks them out. You know, this family seems like they're pretty well off, so why don't they just send housekeeper lady to go buy the ring from him? Or if you won't sell it, just hire a human to steal it. They don't have to tell them they're werewolves or what they need the ring for, just pay a guy to punch Ice Cream Man in the face and take the ring. I mean, if they've tried breaking in to take it by force, then they're obviously not above that sort of thing. And Red Guy is obviously shaping up to be a villain anyway, so I don't think he would be against it. Anyway, they tell Red Guy he can't be pack leader and leave. And then we cut to Freddy being an asshole and getting bullied by Red Guy's soulless kids. Anyway, he goes to the ballroom or whatever, where they begin the wolfing ceremony. They open a thing in the ceiling that lets the moonlight in, and they all start turning into wolves. There aren't any elaborate transformation sequences, they just kind of poof into wolves. I guess that makes it cheap to animate. Freddy steps into the light and starts twitching, there's a bright flash, and Freddy transforms into his wolf form.
Say hello to the big bad wolf!
So Freddy turns into a poodle, the wolves all growl at him, and then Red Guy says he's cursed because he lost the magic ring. This one guy tells him he has until moonrise tomorrow to prove he's worthy of being a wolf, or he'll be banished. Why? I don't know, that's just the plot, I guess. Freddy runs back to his room.
Stop that! You're a wolf! 100% red-blooded wolf!
He mopes by the window while watching the other wolves, but then Red Guy's kids show up with a squeaky toy. Freddy can't resist the urge to catch it, then the kids trap him in a box. We cut to them dyeing Freddy's hair pink and putting a silver ring around his neck so he can't turn back into his human form.
Relax. Once they make Daddy High Howler, we'll let you go.
If you're a good doggy.
Freddy accidentally escapes and somehow traps them in the attic where they realize they don't have cell phone reception. Yeah, their phones work everywhere in the house, but not in the attic for some reason. I can understand if they were in the basement or something, but the writers decided to put the scene in the attic where it makes no sense. After getting his paws stuck in the ring, Freddy sees a portrait of his dad and realizes he needs to get the magic ring back to prove himself worthy, so he jumps out the window. He jumps over the fence and lands in the back of a pickup truck, which he rides into the city, and realizes his sense of smell has been enhanced to the point that he can sense all of the food in town, but then he sees a cat and is unable to fight the urge to chase it, so he falls out of the truck and nearly gets run over. By the way, the fact that Freddy now has an enhanced sense of smell and can't resist the urge to chase cats never comes up again for the rest of the movie. Freddy gets rescued by a stray dog named Batty who shows him how to time crossing the street, I guess because he never learned how to cross the street as a human. Freddy tries to tell her he's actually not a dog, but of course she doesn't believe him, so he storms off and tells her to stay, which makes her angry.
Look, just stay.
Did you just tell me to stay?
He tries to walk on two legs and can't. They go their separate ways, then Freddy runs into some of the scary local dogs pissing all over the place. This is important. So he goes back to Batty and begs her for help finding the ice cream man. He explains the ice cream man killed his dad and stole something he has to get back. Batty refuses to help until Freddy says he has a ton of meat at home, and then they get attacked by dog catchers. Batty defeats the dog catchers, then we get a montage of her teaching Freddy how to be a dog, and this includes another scene of dogs pissing.
You can tell that it's hard for me to give in.
And for some reason, it's playing this romantic music as if to imply Batty's gonna become Freddy's love interest, which is really f***ed up if you think about it for 4 seconds.
As you follow my every move, this is also new to me.
Fortunately, the movie doesn't end up going that way. There are moments when it seems like it's going to go that way, but I suspect some studio executive realized having a boy in a dog's body wanting to stick his lipstick in a dog would have been gross and weird. Speaking of gross and weird, did you guys know that you can listen to terrible mainstream pop music with these shitty sounding plastic things that you stick directly into your filthy ear holes? They're called AirPods, and Apple makes them for listening to music on your iPhone. And they're wireless, just in case you're the kind of moron who just leaves their $1,300 phone on a counter in a store and walks away from it because you don't have the common sense to just put it in your pocket when you're not using it. In fact, you have to use them wirelessly because they took the headphone jacks out of the phones, thus forcing you to buy their overpriced proprietary garbage. That's not anti-consumer at all. Enjoy the closed Apple ecosystem where you're only allowed to use their software. And if you ever need a repair, just send your iPhone to one of Apple's approved facilities since no one else is allowed to repair them because tech monopolies can just bribe their way out of getting charged for violations of antitrust laws. So now you have to pay a huge markup to replace a battery full of cobalt mined by child slaves in the Congo. But it's all worth it to be trendy with the latest gadgets, right? There's nothing more important than brand loyalty and impressing stupid people. Apple. You. Freddy and Batty see some werewolves, so Batty pulls Freddy into an alley and explains werewolves are evil.
But they're really stone-cold psychos who sacrifice puppies to their moon god.
Freddy tries to explain that werewolves are in fact not rich, devil-worshipping Democrats who use pizza shops as fronts for their activities, but realizes that's probably a bad idea. We cut to the ice cream man ranting to a customer about werewolves, and then he talks to a stuffed monkey.
You're the smartest man I know. That is nice of you to say. You're my best pal.
He's a tragic character. Freddy and Batty make their way to the werewolf museum, but Batty refuses to go in with Freddy, so he walks up to the door, and the security system ignores him because he's a dog and not a wolf. He sees some spooky shit, then finds the ring under a glass. but it turns out to be a fake ring. Just then, the ice cream man grabs Freddy and realizes the real magic ring glows in his presence, and apparently, he can't understand Freddy and just hears his speech as barking. I guess werewolves can understand dogs, but humans can't. The ice cream man uses Twizzlers to tie up Freddy in the ice cream truck.
Hey there, pal. Just do what he says. He's goo-goo.
Then he pulls a lever and the ice cream truck transforms into some kind of Dexter's laboratory. I guess he bought all of this equipment with his ice cream man salary. Or maybe he just inexplicably has a lot of disposable income, like a certain subset of people on the internet who are also obsessed with anthropomorphic wolves. After nearly accidentally killing Freddy, the ice cream man rambles about how no one likes him and no one believes him when he said he saw a kid get eaten by a werewolf. Freddy tries to tell him he is that kid and he didn't get eaten, but the ice cream man doesn't understand him and just hears barking. The ice cream man reads the printout from the analysis machine or whatever and realizes Freddy is a werewolf. Then someone comes banging on the shutter. No one's outside, but when Ice Cream Man turns around, he sees Batty freeing Freddy and tries to grab her. She evades him, causing him to put his hand on a thing that electrocutes him, and then all the machines start going crazy and shooting lasers all over. The Ice Cream Man gets caught on a hook thing that's just there for some reason. So Freddy takes the ring back and runs. Then the Ice Cream Man sees a photo of Freddy's silver collar and recognizes it as the emblem of the rich family up on the hill. So I guess the werewolf family not only keeps silver objects which are dangerous to them in their mansion, they even put their family emblem on them. That's like if a family of slugs kept their own brand of salt on hand. We cut back to the werewolf mansion where housekeeper lady looks around for Freddy, then nothing happens. We cut back to Freddy and Batty asks Freddy to bring her to the meet he promised, but he says he can't do that, but also can't explain that his house is full of werewolves, so Batty gets mad and runs off. Freddy follows her to the cardboard box she lives in, and is surprised to find out that a stray dog lives like a stray dog. We get a flashback to how no one at the pet store picked Batty, so the store owner just put her outside in the rain. What an a**hole. Hey, remember when Freddy told Batty to stay and she got all mad about it?
Did you just tell me to stay?
It kind of implied that maybe she used to have a master who forced her to do tricks or something, and now being told to stay, sit, roll over, and stuff like that triggers her. But no, it turns out she never had a master. They just gave her a grand total of 2 character development moments, and they contradict each other. Brilliant. Freddy tries to tell her he's a werewolf, but he does that cartoon thing where he can't bring himself to say it.
I'm a werewolf.
A what?
So instead, he just says his family doesn't like him, so he had to steal the magic ring to prove his worth. Just then, the dog catchers show up and catch them. As they're brought into the dog pound, they hear something roaring, and Freddy tries to run, but he runs into the manager of the pound, who happens to hate dogs, even though she has one.
Look what you did. You made Master sad. That makes me mad.
The dog catcher shows Pound Lady they caught Batty after she had been evading them for months, but she doesn't care because she's more interested in Freddy because he has pink hair. And despite the fact that he has dyed hair and is clearly wearing a collar, it never occurs to any of them that he might belong to someone, so Pound Lady tells him to put Freddy in the Poochie Salon, where he gets sprayed for fleas and a thermometer shoved up his ass. Speaking of getting things shoved up your ass, have you guys tried YouTube Premium? It's the only way to not get interrupted by an ad every f***ing 2 minutes while watching the same f***ing video under a different title over and over again because the recommendation algorithm is so f***ed. Oh, this guy watched a video with a stick figure describing historical torture methods once. Let's show him nothing but that from now on. Who wouldn't want to see 16 videos of the secret hidden meeting of some Pixar movie? Guys, did you know that Australia fought a war with emus? And they lost? F*** you, YouTube! We cut to Red Guy in the back of his car talking to some guy on the phone when the Ice Cream Man shows up and snatches a hair from his mustache before his muscular female driver throws him into the nearby dumpster. Red Guy then sees Freddy in the database of pound dogs they just has in his car for some reason and tells the driver to take him to the pound. Back at the pound, Freddy and Batty get thrown into a kennel with 3 other dogs, one of which is named Twitchy, and she's the one in charge.
Top dog around here.
You? But you're so little.
Did you just call me little?
Twitchy tries to attack Freddy, but is stopped by the other 2 dogs who introduce themselves as Hamish and Bruno. They warn Freddy and Batty about the dog-eating ogre who lives under the pound, and we get a flashback to the dogs trying and failing to escape. Freddy starts pestering Batty while she tries to think of a way out, but then Pound Lady shows up with Red Guy. It's revealed to the other dogs that Red Guy is Freddy's uncle, and Red Guy takes him out into the corridor where he shakes the magic ring out of him, then tells him he's going to leave him in the pound. As the Doberman drags Freddy off, Red Guy tells Pound Lady he wants some machine she's working on to be ready by that night. Freddy gets thrown back into the kennel, and Batty asks him how he has a werewolf for an uncle. Because even though Red Guy is in his human form, I guess the dogs just somehow know he's a werewolf somehow. Maybe werewolves just smell different from humans. But if that were the case, then Batty and the other dogs would have realized Freddy is a werewolf too. I don't know. In any case, Freddy admits he's a werewolf.
I knew you smelled funny. That's why you acted so weird.
So because the genius Batty couldn't put two and two together, she gets mad at Freddy for lying, and then the movie treats Freddy like he's the asshole for not wanting to be the victim of dog racism. So after the obligatory moment in every kid's movie where one of the main characters gets mad at the other and they separate, we cut back to the ice cream truck, where the ice cream man puts the hair he took from Red Guy and puts it in a machine that determines Red Guy's a werewolf, and comes up with a plan to use Red Guy to lead him to the other werewolves so he can get them all. At the pound, one of the dog catchers opens the door to throw them a bone, even though the bone is small enough that he could just stick it through the bars. Then Batty uses the bone to prop open the door, but her head is too big to fit through the gap. So they tell Twitchy to go out, but she presses the wrong button, causing an alarm to go off. Pound Lady and her Doberman show up, and the Doberman asks us which one of them tried to escape. Freddy takes the blame, but the Doberman doesn't believe he has the balls. So Freddy goes over to Pound Lady and pisses on her. The Doberman grabs Freddy and starts waving him around, but Freddy can't stop pissing, and it just goes on and on. Bruno, having no character beyond being dumb, thinks it's a sprinkler and tries to play in the piss stream, while Hamish slides around in the piss. There's piss everywhere. Piss on the floor, piss on the window, piss on Liam Neeson's pants. It's all piss. Everything's piss. Why did this movie have so much piss in it? Is the sequel gonna have this much piss? Will it have more piss? 200% more piss? How are they gonna top this much piss? Is someone gonna literally drown in piss? After the director's barely disguised fetish, Pound Lady has Freddy thrown into the dungeon with the dog-eating ogre, where there's no piss. Red Guy pulls up to the mansion where Housekeeper Lady asks him if he found Freddy, and Red Guy tells her he was just talking to the police. But then she sees Freddy on the TV screen in the car, which she just left turned on because he's an idiot. So Housekeeper Lady gets on her motorcycle and speeds off to the pound. At the pound again, Batty and the others come up with an idea to use the air vents to get to Freddy. On their way, they see Pound Lady and the dog catchers turning on their big evil machine that turns dogs into wigs. Meanwhile, in the dungeon, Freddy encounters the dog-eating ogre, and then we cut back to the mansion where Red Guy gets a phone call from Pound Lady telling him the machine's ready. Then the dog-eating ogre tells Freddy he doesn't actually eat dogs.
I don't eat dog.
Which just raises the question of what he's been living on, since dogs are evidently what the dog catchers have been feeding him. He accuses Freddy of stealing the silver collar and pulls it off him, and then he smells Freddy and realizes he recognizes him, and it turns out he's actually Freddy's dad who's still alive. We get a flashback to Flashheart falling off the cliff, then getting caught by the dog catchers who I guess mistook him for a dog and chained him up in the dungeon. Red Guy came and put a silver band on his wrist so he couldn't turn back into his human form. I also guess Red Guy just has a stockpile of silver collars and bands and shit they can use to keep other werewolves from turning into humans when it suits his evil plans, because that's more effective than just killing them, I guess. The other dogs make their way to the dungeon and attack Flashheart, and the noise alerts Pound Lady and the dog catchers. Housekeeper Lady drives to the pound, Pound Lady tells the Doberman to guard the machine, then Freddy breaks up the fight and explains the werewolf is his dad. Batty says Pound Lady and Red Guy have a machine that turns dogs into wigs. Then the dogs help Flashheart break out of his chains. Yeah, all it took was 4 small dogs pushing on him. I would think his bones would break before the chains did, but that would be too funny for a kids movie. Speaking of kids movies, have you guys subscribed to Disney Plus? Watch all of your favorite shows, like Loki, The Mandalorian, Moon Knight, Andor, Legends, Ahsoka, Secret Invasion, The Bad Batch, I don't know, there's probably something on there that isn't Marvel or Star Wars. Oh, you can also watch old episodes of The Simpsons cropped to 16:9 because they think you're too stupid to understand why there's black bars on the sides of an old 4:3 video. In fact, you can watch butchered versions of all your favorite old movies and shows that have jokes censored because they're offensive to imaginary modern audiences. Are you guys looking forward to the death of physical media? Boy, I sure am. I mean, who needs Blu-ray when you can watch movies in 720p on your 4K monitor because they limit the resolution if you watch in a browser? And let me tell you, it was a really great business decision on Disney's part to make a streaming service. Now instead of paying $10 per person to take your family to go see the latest Chinese censor-approved ESG slop in a theater, we can all just wait a couple months to watch whatever the Disney assembly line turns out basically for free. Disney Plus, we're still not profitable. As they make their way out of the dungeon, they get cornered in some kind of ventilation shaft. But then the housekeeper lady shows up and jams the big fan with her motorcycle. Then Kung Fu fights the dog catchers because haha, isn't it so funny to see an old lady doing action movie stuff? I bet you didn't expect this old lady to be a secret badass. That's never happened in a children's animated movie before. Hey, if she can do that, why didn't the werewolf family just send her to steal the ring from the ice cream man? I also guess housekeeper lady just somehow knew Freddy would be in the ventilation shaft under the building and, you know what? F it. The others run except for Twitch, who gets stuck behind the big fan when it unjams. So she gets the dog catchers to chase her. The others slide through a pipe that connects to a train tunnel for some reason, and end up on the roof of a train. And since Freddy isn't wearing the silver bands anymore, once he's exposed to sunlight, he turns back into his human form, but now he's naked. I guess when a werewolf turns into a wolf in this universe, they just sort of poof into their wolf form, and their clothes disappear. But then they don't reappear when they turn back. So when the werewolf family gets back home after a night of rescuing people who don't deserve it, they all just poof back into humans, and they're all naked in front of each other. Well, I guess that's okay as long as they don't piss on each other. They sneak around town and find some clothes hanging on a clothesline. Back at the pound, it turns out Pound Lady won the fight, so she straps her housekeeper lady into the sodomy machine, but then she escapes and they fight some more. At the mansion, Red Guy comes in with the magic ring and declares himself High Howler. Everyone turns into their wolf forms, then Red Guy introduces his dog-killing machine. But before he can press the button on his remote control, Freddy shows up in a child superhero costume, accompanied by the dogs. Red Guy tells the other werewolves to get Freddy and the dogs out of there, but then Flashheart comes in and reveals he's still alive. But then the Ice Cream Man comes in with his truck and starts shooting everyone with paintballs full of silver dust, knocking them out. But then he sees Freddy, who explains that he wasn't eaten by a werewolf, but that they're his family.
You're the boy! But you got eaten! I'm avenging you against these beasts!
They're not beasts. They're my family.
Red Guy knocks out the Ice Cream Man, then Freddy grabs the remote. While housekeeper lady frees the dogs at the pound, Red Guy chases Freddy around and manages to get the remote, but all the dogs have already been freed. But then Twitchy gets sucked up into the machine, but she destroys it from the inside with her enraged thrashing as the dogs run out of the pound. Freddy opens the attic door, the two bully kids fall out, and then he locks himself in there. Red Guy chases him out a window onto the roof, and Freddy steps into the moonlight, which transforms him back into a poodle. It turns out even though Freddy is a were-poodle, he has the powers of a werewolf, so he roars. You know wolves don't roar, right? Maybe a studio executive told the director he couldn't have him win the fight by pissing, so this is what they came up with at the last second. Anyway, this causes Red Guy to fall off the roof onto the ice cream truck, which explodes. Sometime later, Pound Lady and the dog catchers get arrested. Why? I don't know. They didn't do anything that would have been illegal. It's not illegal for a dog catcher to catch dogs. It's not like anyone knew Freddy and Flashlight weren't dogs, and that wasn't even revealed to anyone except for the Ice Cream Man at the end. So it's not like they can be charged with kidnapping. Is it because they built a machine to turn dogs into wigs? We're talking about a country that had rescue dogs put to sleep out of fear of a disease with a mortality rate of less than 0.25%. So it's obviously not illegal to euthanize pound dogs. Maybe when they were off camera, they tried to euthanize the goblin who turned on the stove. Anyway, the werewolf family has adopted the dogs, and they force Red Guy to clean up after them. Yeah, he didn't go to prison with the pound people who worked for him. Perks of being rich, I guess. Ice Cream Guy serves ice cream to kids, and presumably none of it is piss flavored. The dogs are happy to not be swimming in piss. Freddy gives Batty her own doghouse, which she doesn't piss in. Then Freddy is relieved of the responsibility of becoming the new High Howler since his dad is still alive and not covered in piss. Then the movie ends with Freddy running around with the werewolves as a poodle and not pissing on everything. So that's Piss the movie. Now piss off. Alex Bones, Acolyte, Grit, Princess 699, Cortez, Scientist, Steve Brown, Zelfire, Diablo, Weasel, Weasel, Liar, Angel, 2 Stubbins, Noble, 2 Cyborg, Sitches, Everything, Atari, Haircuts, Fractal Survive, Go, Flame, Cottage, Cash, G, Busy, Happy Birthday, Today, Everything, Independent, Homo, Ivan, Terror, Jake, BJ, Lady, Jimmy Jam, Joey, Long, Goldberg, John Cleveland, Josh Lockhart, Daniel 1000, Lee, Lipstick, Marco McGuire, Marcus Aurelius, Choice Polozek, Mitch S, Moody Boy, Nando Pants, Nathaniel Davis, Double Team 33, Paco Punch, Raffle Copper, Salty Bucket, Sam, Sir Badass, Smokey, Thomas Brown, Siberian Luke, Tully Belmonte, Toxic Limited, Trial City Studios, YouTube channel, Cooper, Superbug, Walker, Daisy, X, 31 X, and Zenith.